Bruce Niels-Hoglander left practice early. Do you have an update on him?
No, it's a lower body injury. From what I asked, he said he was just pretty sore. So I don't know if that's, means he's out tomorrow or he's not out tomorrow. So, I mean, it just happened. So, I mean, we'll find out by morning, I would assume.
Pettersson back at practice today. Is that a good sign that he could be an option for you tomorrow?
Well, it's a sign, but he's still day-to-day. Like, I mean, he's probably better suited for the weekend, but we wanted to get him on the ice to see how it was.
What did you see from today? I know you chatted with him afterwards. Were you just checking in on?
Yeah, just checking in. Yeah. There was nothing special. Like, I mean, just as he said, he was feeling better.
You talked last week, we talked about Thatcher's workload. And you said eventually you're going to give him days off. So today was one of those days. How did that conversation go? Because he's a creature of habit. He loves to practice. And when you watch him out there, I don't know if anybody practices harder. Was it difficult for him to say, sit down, we want you to settle down a little bit?
Well, actually, it was Ian that did the talking. Me and Ian talk, and then Ian talks to Thatcher. And I think he didn't mind at all the fact that he wasn't going on the ice. And he's the one that when they talk, and he says how he feels. And so, like, today was a total day off. Usually, a lot of times, he's not doing a lot, but he'll go out for the half an hour early and get his work done. But it's a delicate, thing. Like, I mean, to balance his work ethic versus the time off for rest type thing.
Are you tempted to use him on the weekend and back-to-backs? The way that he's been going?
You're tempted. You just never know. I mean, we take it a day at a time. Let's, if we can, if we're successful, we'll see how it works on. We'll get 2 back-to-backs in next week. So it's, we got to figure out a plan here. We're thinking of a plan, but we got to, etch it in stone type thing.
Bruce, with the run you're on here, does this team remind you of any team you had previously that made a really nice push in the second half?
Wonder who you're talking about. Well, you know what? My memory in that first year in Washington is, I remember like pushing and pushing, but never thinking it was gonna happen because it was my first year at coaching in the NHL, and then it just we won 12 out of the last 13 to get in, and the last 7 straight, and it was just a unique experience. But then the Southwest Division wasn't nearly as tough, but we still had to get a Florida win over Carolina the night before and then beat Florida the last night. But it feels very similar, the amount of games that I will have been here and there, and the situation we came from. I think our record was almost identical when I took over in Washington as is when it was here. So yeah, there's a lot of references and a lot of similarities, I guess is a better word. And I hope and everything works out. You'd like to have the same results.
Did that team have to go through the same emotional journey? Because when you came here, this team was so down in the dumps. Like, they just had no confidence in themselves, and now we see what they're like now. Did that Washington team have
well, I'm sure they did. They hadn't won in 6 years. Like, I mean, they were I think 98 was the last time they went to the finals, and then they never made the playoffs after that. And this was 2007. So I think there was an emotional letdown. The only thing is they had Alex to cling on to at that point, and everything was about him. And then all of a sudden we started winning and it became about everything else.
That year in Washington that you referenced, I asked Luke Shen about, was there a galvanizing moment when he was in the postseason? He referenced Philly when Berube took over, and one night Emery and Holtby got into a scrap. And he said there's just one of those things that everybody rallied around and they squeezed into the playoffs. And they got beat by the Rangers in the first round, but it was something aside. And sometimes it takes that, right? It's not just the goals, it's something that comes from the gut that gets the team.
Yeah, that gets everybody grabbed together and unified. I mean, I think it was maybe 10 days ago that you saw a different reaction around the room. Like, there was a happiness and same kind of thing that we'd leave the room and we'd go, hey, man, they're coming together as a group. And so hopefully it's happened, and hopefully I know that they believe in themselves now a lot more than they did, say, a month ago.
You talk about Washington team and Ovechkin being such a key part of that. Do you see similarities with JT Miller and the way this team sort of revolves around him a little bit?
Well, I mean, it's really different. He's a winger. He speaks English. You know, Ovi back in '07 was, yeah, oh. But he, you know, I mean, I think him and Bo are showing great leadership together. I mean, and that's what you need. And like, I mean, he's on quite a roll now. We just don't want it to lose. Like, I mean, that's what I had Patan in a red jersey so Miller wouldn't have to practice very hard today. And then, you know, Hagi got hurt, so he was a little disappointed that he had to be in a regular shift.
When we talk about Yarrow, it seems like it's kind of like, uh-oh, you know, Thatcher, and oh, gee, will we have to use Yarrow? Isn't that kind of could be troubling? I mean, if he's here after the deadline, like, isn't he a guy that...
He's going to be used, and he's going to be used sooner than later. And you guys were asking the question about Thatcher. I wasn't saying, hey, listen, he's playing on the weekend both games, and he's doing this. I mean, he's, as a matter of fact, Ian was talking today about how well that Yarrow's been practicing. And listen, believe me, as a coach, I want to play him. I just think you got to go with the hot hand at the present time. But if we want to get in and we want to make any noise, we're going to need Yarrow to play and to play well.
Bruce, Scott Walker back on the ice. Do you have any idea when he'll be behind the bench?
No, we're just taking it a day at a time, and when he feels he's ready, he'll be back. But I mean, he's listen, it's a far step from a week ago. He was barely sitting up, so I mean, it's. I told him, let's just take this, you know, a little bit slower, and because I want you to hear for the long time, not for a short time.
Little off the board question. There's a debate on the internet right now if there's more wheels or doors in the world. What do you think?
Holy fuck.
He's gonna say something.
No, I don't have a clue. I counted the doors the last couple of weeks, and it seems to me that wheels are more.
We haven't had a chance to chat with the front office, and we're getting crunch time towards Monday's trade deadline. I'm wondering what your thoughts are with this hockey team right now and what might happen between now and then. Have you been conversing with the office? Do you know what their mindset's at?
I really don't. We've been focusing on the games, and I've told them, you just tell me if you have a question about a player and you want to know something, give me a call. Be happy to help in any way I can. But it's been relatively quiet right now. So I assume, like, you know, there was a trade yesterday, and Vetrano just got traded today, that it's going to start picking up. And there's usually a couple teams that jump which really bothers the media, because they jump it before Monday, and they're sitting there for the first 3 hours with nothing to do, and they wish they had waited till Monday morning to make the trade. But I'm sure there's going to be a couple big ones. If there are big ones to be made before Monday's deadline.
The former player in you, Bruce, and coach, are you of the mind, although you maybe can't sell this to the hockey ops department, that this group deserves a chance, you know, being 1 point out of a playoff position today, to be more or less held together and go for it? Because making the playoffs is quite an accomplishment, because you said you never know what can happen if you get in.
You never know what can happen. I think we lost to Montreal when we had 122 points one year, and looked like we were well on the way to doing something. And in that series, we lost 3 in a row. We hadn't lost 3 games all year in a row. But no, I haven't relayed anything. I think Jim and Patrick have got a really good nose for what this team needs. I think they like the way things are going on. I mean, we know we go through a gauntlet after this weekend of teams, but I've come to the conclusion that you can beat anybody on any given night. Like, I mean, if you fear teams, you're going to lose, but if you embrace the challenge, good things can happen. So that's the way we're taking it all.
What's your philosophy at this time of the year, compressed schedule? You gave them the day off the other day. This was a pretty brisk practice. What do you try to accomplish in terms of rest versus just getting a sweat on and getting out there and getting a skate in?
Well, I mean, yeah, because we hadn't practiced like D-zone or any of that stuff in about 2 weeks because we've been playing and resting, and like we're taking Friday off and we'll have Monday off. So I mean, this will be our last practice till Tuesday. So I wanted to make sure that, you know, we remember things that we have to do. So, but I believe in rest, especially being in Anaheim for almost 5 years, that when we had our good teams, I mean, rest in March and was imperative because the travel is so much crazier than the East. They have it so easy compared to us guys.
Yeah, I asked Luke about Brad Hunt, and now that you got Tucker Pullman kind of working his way back in here, is there difficult decisions or not? I mean, this is a guy that, we talk about his positive attitude, and he got the belt last night, so.
You know, his attitude has been the same no matter what. I sat him out 20 games in a row in Minnesota, and he'd still say, "Hi, Bruce," every morning. And like, I mean, there's never a bad day for Brad, but there's obviously, he's playing really well. Like, I mean, it's decision time. I mean, he's you know, would have been classified as an 8 or a 7, you know, when we came in, and same as Burrows, when he gets healthy, they're saying, well, he's not going to be ready. But he was playing regularly when he got in, so it is a competition, quite frankly. And we're going to play the team that we think can win the game that night. And that's what it's going to be based on. It's not going to be based on, oh, we like him, he's a natural 7, he's a natural 8. If we think that's the better player for that night, then that's the guy that's going to go in.
Pullman ready for tomorrow?
He's very close. You know, I mean, if he's not ready, I can predict that he'll play at least one game on the weekend, you know, if he doesn't play tomorrow.
By the way, that series you mentioned was a lock, right?
Yes, it was. Thanks for reminding me.
Thank you, Bruce.
How much are you enjoying this right now, though?
It's fun. I love just hanging out, talking hockey, so it's all good.